Hey everybody, today we're going to be talking about something which might seem a little bit outside the scope for Session and Oxen, but is something that's really important to something we all hold near and dear here at the Oxen Labs, which is privacy. So what we're going to be talking about today is facial recognition. And facial recognition is an interesting piece of technology because it's something that a lot of governments and companies have found very useful, or have at least thought of some very useful ways that they could use it. But generally speaking, as a global community, we've pretty much rejected facial recognition. People are just really not interested in it, or they see that there are some really serious flaws when it comes to privacy and surveillance, and even equality that come up when we start using facial recognition technology. There have been lots of proposals over the years to implement this, especially on like street cameras and things like that. And widely, these have been completely rejected. So, that's a really good thing. But here's the thing, facial recognition technology isn't really going anywhere. It's sticking around and it's sort of weaseling its way back into our lives. So the thing that kind of made me start thinking about this again was when I saw this article from MasterCard, which was talking about a biometric checkout program that they were going to be starting, where you wouldn't be using your debit card or your phone or even a wearable smart device to pay for something. You could simply smile at a camera or look into a camera and boom, suddenly that is being used to access the funds in your bank account and to process the transaction. And I thought to myself, this seems a little bit weird, right? Like, it's okay, this is a product that MasterCard's rolling out, and that's fair enough. Maybe people will find some convenience in this, but it feels like a bit of an unnecessary use of very, very sensitive biometric data in order to replace, the simple bank card, which really, or even just cash, which really just doesn't really seem necessary. And then, going on, we've seen stories come out over the last year from Zoom where they are looking into some AI technology which will actually analyze your behavior while you're in a Zoom call. Zoom's been in hot water for mishandling data and bad implementation of encryption and just generally not really preserving privacy very well ever since it got popular at the beginning of the pandemic. So whether we really want Zoom to be using AI technology or facial recognition technology to produce reports about your mood or behavior or feelings during a video call, I think the answer to that one is definitely no. But once again, there are going to be a lot of companies around the world and people around the world who might find this really useful, much in the way that people might find the MasterCard biometric checkout program quite convenient. And then we circle around to something which a lot of people are huge advocates for, which is self-driving cars. So self-driving cars have cameras, obviously, to help them navigate around the streets that they're driving on, which is highly necessary, right? Like, you don't want to have a self-driving car driving around completely blind. That would obviously be a disaster. But here's the thing. So there was recently a story which came out that showed that a police department in San Francisco was actually able to access the camera footage from driverless cars around the city and was using that footage in order to assist them in cases. Now, what we are potentially circling back around to here is the exact same thing that we rejected when we said, no, we don't want facial recognition or we don't want surveillance cameras littering our streets. Well, if driverless cars become commonplace and they're all fitted with cameras driving around 24/7, and suddenly this kind of information falls into the hands of law enforcement and has the potential to be misused or mishandled, either through being exploited or being leaked, suddenly we have a really big issue again. So just in the space of a few minutes, we've got three pretty prominent, pretty large examples of how facial recognition technology is kind of sneaking its way back in. But this time, it's not necessarily coming from your local city council or even from your federal government or from your local police department. It's coming from the products that we buy and the products that we willingly put into our homes and put into our communities and carry around with us all the time. And it really makes an interesting point, I think, about how surveillance gets sold to us as convenience. And I think a lot of people these days are really rejecting this idea that safety and surveillance are connected, when really we should be rejecting surveillance as a way to try and keep us safe. It's not very useful or very effective. But what is actually being sold to us is a lot of the times surveillance as convenience. And that's something that we need to reject just as strongly, because really we're just going to end up in the same situation where we're being surveilled, which is not what anyone wants. We know that we're going to end up with our human rights being degraded and our quality of life being degraded if we're being surveilled all the time. So be careful next time you're thinking of about buying that Alexa smart home speaker, or buying a Ring camera to put outside the front of your house, or even buying a smartwatch to go on a run with. And think about the impact that might have on your life, either today or down the track. So thanks for watching, everybody, and why don't you have a think about facial recognition technology as well, and places where you might have seen this crop up in your everyday life recently, or places where you think it might crop up soon in the future. See you next time.